So we get into this situation which we're in now, in which, at least according to my analysis, we've been in since 2000. I date the moment at which we started losing to an onslaught, a jihadi onslaught, back to October 2000. And in October 2000, we had what I call the collapse of the cultural Maginot Line. In other words, civil society has all kinds of ways of defending itself from the aggressions of pre-modern personalities, of people who believe that they should be able to dominate and to use force to dominate. And if people they don't like get in their way, they should have the right to be able to eliminate them, which was the pre-modern political model. I mean, it was hemmed in here and there, but by and large, the aristocracy was able to intimidate the rest of the population across the board. In fact, you could call the sort of class consciousness, for instance, which went out with the American Revolution, of what's known as cap deference, which is if you wear a cap, you're a manual laborer. If you wear a hat, then you're a gentleman. And so if you're a manual laborer and if you're wearing a cap and you meet somebody with a hat, you have to doff your cap to show respect to this person who is inherently superior to you. So there are all sorts of ways to defend against this kind of stuff, and some of them are just the normal kinds of things. Whereas if somebody starts behaving like a European aristocrat in America, most people will just laugh at it. That's not going to be a particularly successful form of behavior. But if you've got mafiosi and so on who are willing to use force and to intimidate people, they can have some success. Now, in principle, there are ways to get at this. And culturally, there are ways to deal with this. And what happened in 2000 was that sort of across the boards, there was a collapse of the Maginot Line against a jihadi aggression, in which various places, various key areas of the Western public sphere, like schools, like universities, like journalists, and so on, were in fact aggressed by jihadis and behaved with placation and intimidation and didn't resist. So, for example, the key moment in this turnaround, this bascule, as the French would say, this flipping of the lines of force, occurred with the outbreak of the Second Intifada in 2000. And at that point, you have journalists who are not depicting what's actually going on, but in fact depicting an extensively staged presentation of Palestinians being killed by ruthless Israelis. So in 2000, what you have is journalists who are reporting essentially Palestinian war propaganda as news to the West, and you have violent responses in the West, including the spread of some really vile anti-Semitic language, not just anti-Israel language, but anti-Semitic. So, for instance, in the French schools, the term, they play around and they use this sort of reverse word order or reverse spelling order for words. So, for instance, juif, which means Jew, is feuge, which is juif backwards, and Arab is beurre, which also means butter. So, so in the French schools at this point, juif feuge became literally a synonym for bad. So if you gave somebody said, "Can I borrow your pen?" and you said, "Non, c'est un pic feuge," it's a Jew pen, it means it's broken, it doesn't work. And this just spread at lightning speed, and nobody was in a position to resist it. So there were demands, for example, that teachers shouldn't be discussing the Holocaust in school because it offended Muslim students. There were Jewish kids being beaten up, and they would go to the principal, and the principal would suggest that they take their kid out of the school, which meant that their school had a triumphant bully running the place. So it was a loss for everybody except for the bullies. And this happened across the line. Now, I say this because we have to understand that the attack that's being made is an attack on a democratic culture that makes progressive values possible, that it makes it possible to be a liberal. You can't be a liberal in many places in the world. You can try, and we've got volunteers all over the world who are trying to do that. The amount of their success, from reports that I've heard from Haiti, is very limited because it's not easy to transfer these kinds of traits. So we're in a situation where we are literally handing over to people who want to destroy it the very cultural framework that makes our desires to be good people, to be liberals, to help society progress, to help people get along with each other without violence, to help people to be free and to live fulfilling lives. All of these things are in some sense being imperiled by the way in which we are not dealing with the kind of challenges that we can make as a democratic culture to the demopaths who come to destroy us.